I'm Jamie, and this is the best magicians you have never heard of.
Oh, hey, welcome to the show. My name is Joe Bennett from joebennettmagic.com, and this is the best magicians you've never heard of. I'm your guest host tonight, and I'm going to introduce our special guest. He has been doing magic for over 25 years, and he specializes in close-up magic. However, he's suffered some health issues over the last few years, and as a result, hasn't been able to do any performing. So he decided to use his knowledge and passion for magic to create his own online magic show. And it features people from all over the world. As of this recording, this show has had over 40,000 views and over 3,000 hours watched. Everyone, please welcome the creator of Sleightly Magic and the best magicians you've never heard of, Jamie Matchett. How you doing, Jamie?
I'm doing good, Joe. How are you?
I am doing awesome. Thank you for letting me guest host the show, by the way.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on my show.
Everybody's been saying we got to get Jamie as a guest on the show, so I'm happy to be here. How did you get started in magic?
Actually, pretty much like a lot of us. When I was a kid, my best friend's dad used to do these two tricks to me all the time. One was the disappearing, reappearing handkerchief with a thumb tip, and the other one was Crazy Man's handcuffs.
Oh, yeah.
It was a long time. He showed me those two tricks every time I saw him, and I kept asking and asking, and then it was about 14 or 15, and he showed me those two tricks, how to do them, and I was blown away. I couldn't believe that it was a thumb tip that was making this miraculous miracle happen. But yeah, he taught me those, and I learned the heck out of those two tricks. And what happened was I got the bug. I got hooked. I saw what those two tricks did to people, and I wanted more. So I went looking for sleight of hand, and I couldn't find it at first. I didn't have any place to look. There was no YouTube. That didn't exist. So I ended up getting some books, and I bought some tricks at a magic store over in Michigan, and some of my friends had picked some weird things up for me. So it was cool. I was really doing well with all these little packet tricks and things that I had, an invisible deck and whatever. But it turned out I had to carry all this stuff with me, right? So then I started working harder, and I went to libraries, and then I found Expert at the Card Table, which is a hell of a book for your first time when you don't really know anything. But
Oh, yeah, that's like the Bible.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where I got started, and that's why when you see me do magic, you can see the mechanic in me, because the card table stuff is where I got started and what I got really into. So yeah, that's how I got into it, and I fell in love, and I got a little obsessed, and I spent most of my time with a deck of cards in my hand or some coins in my hand, and I'd sit in front of the TV at the TV table, and there would be, like stacks and stacks of cards, like three huge stacks of cards, where I would do all kinds of sleights with them. And once they were all on the floor, pick them all back up and start all over. So I did that for a long time before I was good enough to go and show anybody anything. So yeah, that's how I got started, Joe.
Well, that's awesome. I always like hearing how people started. Everybody's journey is always a little different.
Mm-hmm.
So would you say your passion in magic is close up and sleight of hand and kind of that technician type of thing?
When it comes to performing, yeah, I love sleight of hand. I love everything about it. But I think what I love most about magic is actually the creativity. Um, I like the thought that goes into making things happen and making things make sense. Um, and that's why I make gimmicks. I love making gimmicks. It's one of the funnest things to do, and you can make all kinds of miracles that you couldn't do normally. And the where that puts my mind in the creative process is great. I love it. I love the experience, and most of the time I come up with something that's shit, but sometimes I come up with a gem. I got a few that are pretty cool.
I've seen some of your gimmicks before, and they're totally amazing.
Thank you.
You'll have to show us some of those later.
Yeah, I can do that.
So what is it that you love about doing close-up magic and kind technical magic and even working with gimmicks? What is it that really pulls you in on those aspects of magic?
Well, I think the big thing is the audience. Audience interaction is a huge thing because my shows aren't really tightly scripted when I'm doing close up. When I'm doing close up, I mean the routine is basically scripted, but not what's going to happen because the audience gives you something back every time, and it's always something different depending on where they're from, what they do, what their experiences are. So I get to feed off that and find out different things that play.
That's one of the things I always got out of that too, is that instant feedback that you get from a close-up audience. And I do get that when I work on the stage too, but it's a totally different type of feel. So I totally get that for you. Well, it's time for you to show us a trick. So what you got for us, Jamie?
You know what? It's been a long time since I actually put together a routine. I had a lot of fun. I put this together this week, and it's a 4 ace trick. But what it is, it's really about the difference between a mechanic and a magician. So let's see if I can make this happen.
All right.
Okay. So the difference between a magician and a mechanic. A magician needs to display some sort of skill very early on in order to gain the credibility of his audience. They need to know that it's not Uncle Joe doing the old 21 card trick. Whereas being a mechanic doesn't want anybody to know what he's doing. Everything is secret, all secret moves, and it's supposed to be like he's doing nothing. So what I thought I would do, I would show you the difference between the two very specifically. Now, I've got a deck here that's actually in brand new deck order, okay? Now, a mechanic would not let you know what's going on. A magician wants to be more flashy, but as a mechanic and a magician, I will show you what the mechanic is doing. So if the mechanic would shuffle the cards like this, okay? And lo and behold, they're all still in brand new deck order. Now, he would never want you to see that he could do that. As a magician, first off, the first thing I would change is the card color. Red are very good for gambling demonstrations. I love them. But I'm a magician. I like blue cards. They're flashy. They're out there. You can see them. They are in brand new deck order. And as a mechanic, because I know where each one of those cards is, it's brand new deck order. I know where the aces are. So I could actually shuffle them for real. And in 3 shuffles, I can. That's 2. In just 3 shuffles, I should be able to. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, to confuse a mechanic, what has to happen, say we put them back in the deck, okay? I knew where all the cards were, so I was able to find them. But if each card had a different amount of cards in between them and I didn't know what they were, and even if you put them face up like that, okay, that's going to confuse a mechanic. That's where you need the magician in you to be able to do something incredible, right? So if we give it cuts here, as a magician, here's what I would do. I would take this card and rub it on the top of my hand, and there's the 4 ace.
Oh.
That's what a magician would do. Now, what I need to do here is I need to make 4 piles of 4 cards, so 3 indifferent cards for each ace. As a mechanic, I could, maybe do some crazy second deals to show you that I'm talented, or maybe even show you that I can do a bottom deal, and people are impressed with that and deal out 3 cards like that. But that's not what I'm trying to accomplish here, right? I want something to be magical. This is just skill of being able to deal a deck of cards. That's not what I want. I want something magical. So say, for example, we do something very magical. We still need 3 cards for this ace. So if we take this here, we got 3 cards for that ace, 3 cards for, let's put that in the middle, and 3 cards for that one. Now watch. This is where the magic happens. We've got the ace of clubs, and we've got 3 indifferent cards. Okay? So the ace of clubs is going to go in the middle, in between those cards. We're going to give a little twist like that. And what happens is that ace completely disappears, and we're left with 4 completely indifferent cards. The ace of diamonds with 3 indifferent cards. The ace of diamonds, watch the ace of diamonds. Give it a little wave like that, and it disappears. Just like that.
Wow.
Watch the ace of hearts. And that also disappears. And we are left here with the ace of spades, and if by mechanic or by magician, it doesn't matter, the 4 aces always like to be together. I put a lot of work into that this week. I put that whole thing together just basically this week. I mean, I came up with the idea with you, and then I worked on it and worked on the pattern a little bit. And to be honest, that's exactly what I love about magic.
What prompted you to put that all together like that?
It wasn't the trick that actually came up that was the idea. It was the difference between the magician and the mechanic idea, and how to display something magical through both avenues and be able to play back and forth with it, and for it to make sense and roll. So it was the idea of the mechanic versus the magician that I came up with that allowed me to think of this.
Well, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It really kind of grabbed my attention there.
Thanks, Joe.
So you have teach us something new.
So yeah, we'll talk about this a little bit, and I'll go through basically how it works. Maybe not quite details, but here's what I got going on. Okay, I am doing, well, for the false shuffle, I'm doing 0 shuffles. The 0 shuffle is basically to put the cards so that they're riffled together like that, and then you push them through each other. So you make a little kind of like a V there, and then you just push them through each other like this. Or I pushed them through. So now you strip them. You strip this side completely out like that. So basically nothing happened. You get 2 halves of the original deck, and then they come on top. And this is an up the ladder shuffle. So they're offset like this. This whole top pack, we take a chunk of the bottom, and we put it on top square with the bottom pack, and then pull these out of the middle, put them back, out jog, steal from the bottom, put them back, and then finish like that. You can do as many of those as you want, because all you're doing is just stacking it back up the way it was. The fake shuffle, the 0 shuffle. Now, I kind of cheat here. I do a bit of a bluff. When I spread the cards out and show them in new deck order like that, they're not really in new deck order. The aces are not there. The aces are on the top of the deck. I had to come up with a very, very weird way to try and get this all set up in order to, because I finished with the McDonald aces, which requires 3 gimmicked cards. So what I did was I set up a stack. The stack is, okay, so I have the 3 gimmick cards that are aces on one side, indifferent on the other. Now it's important to look at these indifferent cards here, because when you make the piles, you don't want one of those cards to be in one of those piles. You're going to end up, so they're going to see a duplicate, and you're going to be caught. So I made this stack: aces face up, and then a face down card, then the 4 aces, and then a red double backer, red and black. So I got the red down. So that's the stack. The rest of the deck is actually in new deck order, other than the aces. So I've got this block here that is indifferent. So when you turn them over and spread them, you can't show that. But for all intents and purposes, when they look at this, they're going to see that it's in new deck order. They're not going to notice that the aces are missing. So once you do that, that's the first part. Real simple. Just so you got to work in the 0. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. It's a little knacky. But then we change to the magician. Okay, so that is complete skill from a mechanic point of view. But from a magician, the color change of the deck is actually super crazy easy. And it's basically an in the hand eidetic change. So when I wave over the deck, I basically just push this card off. So like that, when I wave my hand and I lap it, it comes in my lap. So the deck has changed. So that's a cool.
Oh, that's clever.
It gives me the change from mechanic to magician. Okay. Then we go back to mechanic. So we're switching back and forth. That's the cool thing about this. So we're switching back and forth. So now we're going back to the mechanic where we're going to find the 4 aces. And I did those 3 shuffles. The first shuffle is real. And it actually doesn't matter which one. I say 3 shuffles to get the aces, so I'm going to do 3 shuffles. But you don't want to do more than 1 real shuffle because the deck is in new deck order. Like I said earlier, you don't want one of those cards to come up in those bottom 3s. So the order of the brand new deck is also different. Spades are not on the bottom. When I cut the deck in half when it's in brand new deck order, I need the spades and the hearts to be the 2 top packs of these packs, because when I shuffle them together, they will end up at the top of the deck, and the rest of the cards will end up at the bottom. So when I deal them out, I don't have to worry about hitting a spade or a heart, and I don't have to look for specific cards. I just know a spade or a heart is not going to be there. So that's an important part. So you shuffle those together, maintaining the top stock, right? Once you get through that, you've got the top stock here. Now the 4 aces are on top. So you're ready. You can do whatever. I did it, just a deal out like this. I could have dealt them face up or whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay. So once they're out there, this is a bit of a weird thing to do too, because these are face up and you don't want to give those away. Right. So I had a break under those. Okay. Now, when you weren't paying attention, I peeked at the camera to see, and I don't think you saw it, but what happened was I did this. I put my hand aside, and I brought them to the bottom.
I totally missed that. I totally missed that. That was good misdirection.
Okay, so now I have the gimmicks on the bottom. These 3 gimmicks on the bottom, and they can stay there. So then we talk about the 4 cards coming out for 4 piles of 4. Okay, so I need at first I needed a way to get the cards to the bottom, and that's the reason I went into this mechanic demonstration again, because I need 9 cards before these come into play. So how do I get those 9 cards? I do a gambling demonstration and deal out 9 cards. It's exactly what I do. So, and then I put that ace down there. This is to separate them because I need to gather the aces later and have a reason to. Well, they're not sitting on top of the pile, so I don't have to pick them off each pile. And it just seems completely natural to scoop them up. So we do that, and I can do whatever. You can do all seconds or bottoms, whatever you're good at. So you get the 9 cards out there, just like that, and you deal those out. You're sitting here. Now you have the gimmicked cards sitting there. So all you do is flip the deck in your hand and gather these up and count these 3 cards. Now these 3 aces need to go between your index finger and your middle finger. Okay. So the reason is when you get these 3 cards, you're going to put these ones face down on the ace, not the actual aces. Okay. So you're sitting like this. You got these in your hand. I reach over and drop the gimmicks I drop the aces on the spade while turning this over and dropping it. So
oh, that's clever.
At speed, it looks like this. You gather these 3, you got those 3 cards, put that there, put those down, and then flip them out like that.
And that's such a gutsy move too, but it just flies right under the radar.
Yeah, it's a bit ballsy. So the first one, the first ace, all you have to do, you put it into Elmsley position, right? So
third from the top.
Show the indifferent cards. Make sure they know they're not the same. So you do an Elmsley count. I do a spin. I'm so used to doing twisting the aces. So when I do an Elmsley count, I always feel like I got to twist it. So twist, do an Elmsley count, and turn the whole pack over, and the ace disappears. The second one, you show the indifferent cards. Now the second one, what happens is I keep them spread a little bit like this. Okay. And as I'm squaring them up, I push the bottom one in the palm. So I got it palmed. but I'm still squaring this. So you really haven't even seen anything yet. And just as I complete, it disappears. Turn the whole pack over. Now this one requires a little bit of practice. This one's a little on the difficult side. So you show them these. Now, what happens is I do the same square because it allows me, I need the bottom card again. Okay, so I do the same squares. I square them up in one motion. I get it against my palm here. Watch what happens here. This is a really cool looking thing. You got to do it in one motion though. So as I'm squaring these up, this card goes like this, all in one motion. And then you're sitting like this. So you've got the ace there, and you've got this kind of situation.
So it's almost like you're setting yourself up for a Herman pass there.
It's basically, it really is actually, that's what it is. A Herman pass would be like this to put it on top, but the delay is by doing this, right? And getting against your hand. When you do that, that gives you the ability, because you can't see that, then you frame it with your thumb. So you get this cool little, and you can do it as slow as you want. You could do this, right? So
that looks so magical.
So that was a color change. The other one came face up, but so as you get that goes against the palm, then it goes boom, and there it is. And it looks beautiful.
Nice.
I'm going too fast there because you don't want to flash the fingers flicking it up. It's one of my favorite things to do, and it's elegant. It's beauty. It requires skill. It requires gimmicks. So it requires creative ways to hide the gimmicks. It creates creative ways to use that story. How to each part had its own problems that I had to work through and figure out. And the biggest one was absolutely the stack there, because you got to be careful when you have that stack. You can't flash those cards on top, first of all, and you also you can't at the beginning. You can't flash that. It would be shown as a face up blue card at the very beginning because I've got that double face card. So if you spread them, you got to be careful that you don't see that blue come out.
Oh yeah,
because there'd be a face up card, and there shouldn't be a face up card in the deck. So you got to be careful when you spread it that way, and you also have to be careful when you spread it this way, even without that card. When you have those hidden, you got to be careful not to flash all of those. So you got to think about that when you're doing the trick. But really, the biggest thing out of this whole routine was getting those 3 gimmicked cards in without doing some sort of camera cut or some difficult. I mean, I could have put the Savant on here and I could have palmed him in the deck and found a way to get 9 cards on top of him in the bottom of the deck, but it was too difficult. So I want to say thank you to Remy Connor, who happened to give me a little help with that. We worked on it yesterday for about I don't know, it was a few hours, and we finally came up with this the part that I added to do that was that mechanic part at the end to get the 3 cards. And yeah, we worked that out and the stack and all that stuff and how to figure out how to get that in there. And this is what we came up with, and I'm quite proud of it, especially for being something that I came up with scratched this week. So yeah, that's kind of crazy.
But that's the kind of creativity that I see that you enjoy using when you put your magic together there, and it's just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Thanks. I miss back when I was performing, routining different things, and being a close-up performer. I always had something new that I felt that I could sneak in and see how it does, and I was always working on something. Some of it was crap. It just happens. It's just not practical. Maybe it's good here in front of Zoom or whatever, but it's not good in the real world. It's the same with the gimmicks. But every once in a while, something comes together, and this came together. I really like this. I'm proud of this, actually.
This is your 20th episode.
It is, yes.
Of the best magicians you've never heard of. What made you decide to pick up this mantle and host this show specifically?
Well, I came up with a name. It started with the name because when the coronavirus started and we were all stuck at home, well, I was already stuck at home, but everybody else was stuck at home. Um, I kind of got into the magic boards a little bit more, like SME and places like that, and I I saw how much other magicians were helping everybody. Everybody was helping everybody and doing things for people. And um, if you put anything on SME, if you had a question about something and you put it on SME, somebody's going to answer it. And more often than not, a lot of people are going to answer it. Uh, and you see messages like, just PM me, I'll help you out. Things like that. And it happens over and over and over.
Mhm.
And I had never heard of any of these people, right? I don't know any of them. They're not like David Copperfield. They're not David Blaine or people like that. They're regular everyday magicians. And I thought of the best magicians you have never heard of. That's how I came up with it. And then I had posted the name somewhere, February or something like that. And then in June, Ryan Pilling, who was actually on the show, uh, had mentioned the best magicians you had never heard of. And I'm like, where did he get that from? And then I made a comment. I'm like, hey. And that was the little kick that I needed, because I was trying to find a project. Being sick as much as I've been sick over the last 2 years sucks. I don't know from day to day if I'm going to be okay or I'm not. And so that's why I can't perform. I can't book a show because I don't know if I'll be able to do that show on that day. So in the last 3 months or so, things have been starting to change. And I'm at a point where I can still accomplish things, whether I'm shaking a little bit or not. But more often than not, I'm not shaking. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but yeah, I owe that to pot. It's crazy. So, yeah. So now that I can do all these things, I was excited about doing this. When they kept bugging me, everybody was bugging me and bugging me to be on the show, but I didn't feel I was able to do that yet. I hadn't got there. And then a couple of weeks ago, I was doing stuff and I said, you know what? I think I can do this. I'm ready for this. So I made the commitment and said, yeah, let's do it. So it forced me to actually routine this. There's no point in me making routines right now unless there's something like this, because I won't remember them. I can't keep it. So there's no point. I would have to do it over and over again in order to keep doing it. This routine, if I don't keep doing this every other day, probably I'll forget it. So that's the up and down about that part. But
Mhm.
I got the show going. When Ryan said that, it got me going a little bit, and uh, I put the word out there looking for guys. And I didn't even know what Zoom was. I didn't know what OBS was. I've got some pretty cool equipment here that I'm so fortunate to. I'm blessed. I didn't pay for any of this. The computer and maybe one of the cameras, and that's it. So the gear part, I got really lucky about. And fortunately, my personality, I'm a little bit obsessive compulsive about some things. And once I started, uh, I was really obsessed about making this a better show. Which, by the way, this is the first episode with everything running HD. Everything is perfect. All good sound, good lights, good. This is the first one, so I'm hoping that this comes out great.
Well, I'll tell
So
you, in 20 episodes, I've been very impressed with the improvement in the quality. The overall production values have gone up. Every episode, it's gotten better. Um, it just
it's
it's really coming together.
it's
And
hard.
speaking as a fan of the show, it's um, really impressive to me. And I can tell that this has become your new passion piece. And it's a great way to take your passion for magic and still contribute to the community out there. I think you're doing a great service for everybody.
Well, you know what? Like I just said, that I got a little bit obsessive about how to make all this work. Right? I was very interested in this editing and in OBS, and once I got this Stream Deck and this ATEM, all of a sudden I had a lot of power. I could do a lot of things. I didn't know what I could do with them. Right? So now that I got a pretty good grasp of how to make this all work, um, I look at what I've done, and I had so much fun making these. I like talking to other magicians, talking to you. Um, it's such a blast to do that. I mean, eventually, I hope that I can make enough money to support this show that is my ultimate goal. I would like to, I'm working on starting a Patreon account where, people can subscribe for $1 a month, $2 a month, and there will be, on top of the shows, there will be content for them that's only available through Patreon, such as a lot of these videos. The magicians that have been on here have done some extra stuff where and I've only put it in as performance only, but I'm going to make some small videos of the tutorials for each of those, and those will be available through Patreon, and all members will get to see those. It'll be pretty cool. I got some pretty good ideas, and that's kind of where I stand on it. So it's just been so much fun to make this happen. I hope that I get to keep doing it. So this is my new passion. This is my passion. I love this. It keeps me relevant in the magic community, and I since I can't perform, I can still be a part of it and be, hopefully a valuable part of it, because I think I have a lot to offer. I have a very huge knowledge, especially about sleight of hand, but about how to make magic make sense. That's something I'm good at.
And the other thing you're doing too is you're making connections between other magicians.
Yeah, absolutely.
That wasn't previously there. And I think that's an incredibly valuable part of that too. If you had one piece of advice that you could give to anybody, whether they're a beginning magician or whatever, even if they wanted to start up their own Zoom show, what would you do? What would be the piece of advice you would give?
Well, I would say that the piece of advice I would give would be definitely be yourself. Everybody, I've had the luxury of meeting a lot of magicians, not just the 19 episodes I've done. There's been a lot of guys that I've talked to, and we haven't, quite met up on making this happen yet. But of the guys that I've talked to and of the guys I've interviewed, the best ones always have their personality built into their shows one way or another. And I think that's the way you got to go. I really, really love doing this show. Obviously, people are watching it. Unfortunately, I'm short on subscribers. I hope you guys keep watching this every week. Hit that subscribe button, and that'll really help me out. I've only got 120 subscribers, but I've got people are watching it every day. I check once in a while, and it's always being watched. So hit like and subscribe. That'll help me out a big time. Check out Patreon. It'll be roughly $1 a month, more than likely. And just keep coming back. Watch the show. Leave me comments. Tell me what you want to see. What are you interested in? What do you want to see? This is for you. This is to provide value to you. So what do you want out of it? And I'll try and make that happen. So I hope that you guys are here every week, and I hope you keep coming back.
All right. Well, Jamie, it's been a pleasure. You are very, very gracious for having me host again tonight. And,
that was fun.
I thank you. And thank you all for watching the show tonight. My name is Joe Bennett from JoeBennettMagic.com. And if you enjoyed this show, yes, please like and subscribe to this channel. Leave comments in the comment section. And this has been the best magicians you've never heard of. And now you've heard a little bit more about Jamie Matchett. Have a good night.